So I'm going to focus in on Autodesk Cost, an overview what it can deliver, how it's been updated over the course of the year, and sort of new features that come out with from AU as well. Just very briefly before we start, kind of the reason for Autodesk Cost is based around really the current situation of siloed information, different platforms for managing different parts of the information, for your schedule, for your estimating, for the cost management, for forecasting. The very, very manual processes of taking data from one to another, and it's not very easy then to manage changes that occur during the project, because a lot of this information has then got to be entered into multiple systems multiple times, and that gives you, a great ability to make a data entry mistake, and that can really impact how you look into the future of the project and how the costs are being managed.
And sorry there, Jonathan. What solutions are people using other than cost management? Like at present, what have they in place to manage this workflow?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, we see a lot of people predominantly using Excel to manage the cost throughout the project. So they'll manually bring in information from the estimating package, and that's kind of a one-time transfer. It's very manual, and then trying to manage that through the changes that necessarily happen in a project, through variation orders. Anything that can happen on the project can all impact what that cost picture is going to look like at the end, and that makes it's a very manual process. So just touching again, you've probably seen this slide a few times. Cost management sits within Build, and that in turn obviously sits on top of Autodesk Docs as its underlying platform. One thing particularly to note about this is a lot of people will have Build subscriptions already, and may not even be aware that cost management is a part of that subscription. There's no additional cost. You just turn it on, and it links to the entire sort of ecosystem of Construction Cloud. One thing that I did want to highlight was when I talk about linking to different parts of the system. We can link into the schedule as well, so that program of works through the schedule functionality that Maria showed. We can also bring that in and link it into our contract budget, and that way we can use that based on delays and overruns. We can use that to forecast into the future.
Sorry, Jonathan, just to butt in there, I think it's worth mentioning that even though it's part of Build, it is a separate module to Build, so that you do have to activate it for individual members. So not everyone that has access to Build will have access to Cost, that you can kind of assign it individually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously the commercial aspect is quite sensitive. It's very robust in terms of its permissions, but equally you can simply just turn it off, and you don't make it available to the majority of the project members. They just won't know that it's there. These are the main workflows and features. I'm not going to go through all of these. We really just don't have time for that. I want to show you a little bit in the platform itself. But everything from the initial budget and contract management, payment applications, the change management is really powerful, and allows us really to start looking into the future, into the forecasting, and then actually reporting on that as well. So these are the main areas that are encompassed within Autodesk Cost. All of the initial budget, essentially the money you've got to complete the project, either from your client or from a drawdown. from a pot of money that you allocating across contracts. We can do all the contract management, so issue those contracts to subcontracts, to consultants for their part of the work. The payment applications, so both payment applications that people will make from you, so your subcontractors, based on measured work, also any expenses as well, and then payment applications that you will make to claim money from the client, or to draw down from that central pot. If you're not a contractor, if you're an owner, you can draw down that central pot so you can see where that money is being allocated. Payment applications feeds into our actual costs. So what have we actually spent? This is what we forecast we're going to spend. This is what we've actually spent. That all leads into that forecasting module. A huge part of that is the change management engine, and that enables you to capture really any information, anything from within the platform. So Maria touched on that, from issues, RFIs. Those queries, those problems can have a significant impact on the cost. To be able to raise a potential change order, a variation notice from within any part of the system and bring that into ours, and then we can take that through a complete workflow. So if we need to request additional money from the client, we can do that within the platform. We can manage all the contract documents for that, and all of the reviews, all the way down to requests for quotes for that work to be carried out, and amendments to the likes of subcontract contracts once that's been approved. I'm talking about some of the standard terminology in cost. Some of it probably doesn't resonate with every single person. People tend to think about budgets and costs and payment applications and cost change in different terminology. The platform is almost 100% customizable. I'm not going to go through everything, just to highlight a few things. We can build our own customized approval workflows into the package based on certain requirements, push them through different routes depending on those requirements. We have multi-currency support, so purchasing supplies from within Europe, we can easily support those. Compliance requirements, so when you are making payments, you'll typically need a waiver document that's been received. There's no further claim on that portion of the job. We can account for all of those. Even just the basic terminology, as I was saying, I talk about the budget, the costs, the payment requests. If you think about those in different terms, we can simply change all of that terminology within the platform. We can also integrate with ERP and accounting systems. This ranges from a very simple export from one system, import into cost. That might be something very simple for a small project, a number of invoices per month, an export and import. They can go through a workflow, they can be approved, and they can be sent back. And that builds all the way up to sort of fully functional, bidirectional, customizable integrations with full ERP and accounting systems.
That's great, because we see a lot of tenders coming in from our customers asking, does it have this feature? Does your offering meet these requirements? And it's great to see that it integrates with these ERP systems. Yeah. I mean, that integration, that sort of feeds back into what Richard and Steve were talking about, the open API. Construction Cloud can't do absolutely everything. We want it to do as much as we possibly can, but there are certain things that it's just not built for. And so these integrations allow us to bring all of that information in at the right time and in the right way. Just highlighting some of the development, you can see there is a huge list in here. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but January, March, May, July, September, November, AU, that's a huge amount of development. The team
that that develop Cost is very they're very responsive to customer requests. One item that I'm highlighting here was around claimed work against what we're actually paying that work. So people will make a payment request and we won't necessarily pay all of that. That was a direct user request that we were able to push through to Autodesk, and they've now added that into the platform. Okay, so that's enough on the PowerPoint. I'm going to jump into a very quick, I'm just checking on the time, a very quick overview of what the platform looks like itself. So as we said, it sits within Build, it sits on Construction Cloud. You can see that we've got Docs, we've got Build, we've got all the different modules in here, and we've got our cost management module as well. In common with Build, we have a home screen. This is my home screen. As with the Build home screen, this is relevant to the particular user logging on here. So I can see that I've got RFQs responses due today. I can use this, I can go and immediately chase those up. Reviews that I need to work on, that I need to give my approval to, those are all highlighted here as well. As well as a little insight into the cost and the budget trends that we're seeing at the moment, so we can highlight where projected costs, projected budgets are running over. We can look at the cost trend as well and see how those are working, and then we can jump into the platform in more detail to go and look at those. I'm going to very quickly run through these screens. This is the main budget screen. It shows everything in here that relates to the budget that we have, that we've tendered for this project, and we can see all of our change orders, variations, any reserves that we've added in, and tracking that whole process all the way through, all the way up so that we can see our forecast final costs, we can see our variance, and then we see the percentage complete as well. We've got all of our payment applications that we can make. These are all associated to payment applications that have been made to us, so we build all of that in. And we do the same on the cost side. So the budget, obviously money coming in, costs, money going out. All of that is really good and it's really powerful, but cost reporting by its very nature is historic, and it's a requirement, and we have to do that, and we have to see what money we've got in, what money we've spent. The real power is to be able to take that data and look into the future to see what's happening now, how does that affect the project moving forwards, and that's really where those siloed information packages don't really work. Having everything in Excel, how do you manage to change it? You've got to manually input. Within cost management, we've got all of that built into this ecosystem. So from issues and RFIs, they can create our potential change orders. We've got all of our payment applications, so site measures, they all come in. What have we actually paid out? And how does that affect looking into the future? So we can tie that program of works into our budget items, and we can then start to look out into the future to see what does that actually look like, and what mitigating action, importantly, can we take in order to bring those back into the real budget. So when we look at all of that coming together, and we've got our actuals, our payment requests, we've got all of our change orders, we can start to map that out based on distributions that we build. So we'll build out those distributions. When do we expect to pay the money out? When do we expect to get the money in? What does that distribution look like? When does it start? When does it end? Okay, so we can map all of those out. We can do these in bulk as well. We don't have to do every single line item. We can now pick multiple elements and put what we call a distribution curve against those, so we can see when does that money start coming in, when does it end. We can also see immediately undistributed funds. So these are based on forecast changes that we've made, on change orders, on variations that we need to go and actually distribute. And we can look at the detail of those individual elements. So I'm looking at forecast final cost here. I can see that in my chart. I can take a look at, for example here, I can take a look at the distribution curve of that particular element, and we can see how that money maps out again to budgeted, actual cost and forecast final. We can see that there is an error here, that we've got some distribution totals not matching with the actual forecast. We can take a look at those, and what we see actually is that that's because of some of those variations that we've put through. We have not yet actually put that distribution in place. You can very easily add that distribution in, pick your start and end dates, excuse me, and pick from front-loaded, a typical, which is like the traditional sort of bell curve, a rear-loaded, or just a linear distribution. So we can very quickly add that in, and that builds up that complete forecast and looking out into the future. This is my crystal ball. I love this part of cost. Onto dashboards. So obviously, you know, creating those forecasts, bringing all those figures, generating all that information is fantastic, but we've got to communicate that very easily, very quickly for people that can actually make decisions to affect that. So this is my dashboard for this particular project. It shows me information that relates to me in terms of issues and RFIs, and importantly, I can see, because I have access to cost, I can see the budget trends and I can see the cost trend in here immediately. You can expand these and take a look at more detail if you need to. That's against one individual project. You might want to look, or you most certainly will want to look at multiple projects. So this is across the entire organization. So these are the projects that are ongoing, and this is an overview of where they are at the moment, so I can immediately look and see where I have potential issues. And with that, I believe I am done. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint, which I've got in here somewhere.
Thanks very much for that, Jonathan. It's good to see the cost being used to its fullest, because as you mentioned before, there's no one actually, very few people are aware that it's like a hidden gem within their Autodesk Builder subscription.
And I was going to say as well, it just, sorry, Jonathan, I was just going to say, it just makes sense, like to have it all in the one place and to be able to track a lot of your project information and reference it to cost items. It just makes sense in the workflow of things. And as well, Jonathan, I know, like you had said before, with the cost, you can do a lot with it, and a lot of it is configurable, but you do work closely with the customers in terms of helping them to configure all that, you know, because like there is so much in it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We work with customers to help them build up the understanding of how to get that configuration in, how to manage the budget codes. There are templates in there as well, document templates that need configuration that are extracted from the system. So yeah, we offer all of those surfaces. I'd say the real beauty of it for me is I like being able to say yes when people ask me a question, and then that's really nice with cost. You know, predominantly we can say yes, we can facilitate that, and it's a look into the future. It's a crystal ball. That's the real power of it.
I think your screen is still black there, Jonathan, just on your presentation. We'll yeah,
do you want me to hit the next one?
Yeah. So just one thing before where we stay on this is, because it's all connected construction, you can create a cost item from the docs environment. You can create a cost item from a build environment. Everything is all interlinked and interreferenced. So that's something we need to kind of relate to the audience too as well. Another thing is that Autodesk have invested 6.1 billion in a 5-year R&D on developing the ACC interface. That's roughly around 5.2 billion pound sterling. So it's good to see that Autodesk see what's required and are investing in it. Some other competitions would not invest as deep as much as that. And with that, because we're capturing all of the data from Docs, Collab, from Cost and Build, we're building up this data lake that we can start to slice and dice with our dashboards and get insights. And as what Steve mentioned earlier on, we're building up a place that we can start integrating AI into. It's already there, but we can start developing it a lot further. And that we have access to what is coming on a roadmap through NDAs and so on, and because we're an Autodesk Platinum partner. But we can see what's coming, but there is a lot more than just the 165 plus that have come in 23, and there's a lot more to come in 2024. So it's something that everyone needs to be aware of, and it's exciting times for Autodesk and the Symetri team as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The future looks very bright.
Yeah.
And as well as Jonathan mentioned there, you know, in relation to the feature that was released because of a customer request, like I think that's worth mentioning as well, you know, with Autodesk, ultimately it's the customers, you know what I mean, who need to be getting the most out of this. So they obviously have an input into, you know, feature requests and things like that.